outside?
Well, it made half a revolution, is that enough?
Get some tyre shine or something under it. It just won't skid. It just doesn't like to skid. Now go to this side.
Isn't
I
it?
can pump the one wheel. Getting there. Yes! The 1G skids!
That was amazing.
Welcome back to the Crown factory. This is my 1989 Toyota Crown GS 130. I love this car. I've had it for so long. I restored it recently, which we did a bit of a build series on, which you can check up here or check the description for the videos. Wagon, cruiser, beautiful cruising car. Love it to death. I've done about 10,000 Ks in this thing, but there's one thing holding it back, and that is the engine. The 1G GZE 2-litre supercharged. Although it sounds appealing, it's about as fast as my MR2, but it's just not exciting to drive. It kind of does honk a little bit with the supercharger.
No, it doesn't.
It does, Alan. It honks a little bit.
Never heard it.
It honks. It's just not exciting to drive. So we're going to fix that with this lump of metal over here, the legendary Barra. There's going to be a few purists in the comment section that, you know, might see the JZ plates and go, why don't you put a JZ in? And that was also a plan, but this was the original plan 5 years ago when I got the car. Bought the car, I bought this engine, got a turbo 400, and that was going to be the, let's throw this in there. It just never happened. So today on the Skid Factory, that's what we're going to do. 1G GZE is coming out. Someone in the comment section is going to want it. I will not ship it, but come pick it up from the shed. It's yours. And I'm going to put the FG turbo engine in there. Make sure it fits under the bonnet. And if it doesn't fit under the bonnet, I'll go
Put
buy
a bonnet scoop on it.
I'll go buy a JZ.
We've done our fair share of engine swaps on this channel, as you probably knew if you've been watching. So we've done a bit of research into what's involved or what we think will be involved. So we've got a pretty good idea what's happening. We obviously are fairly confident that that engine, that physical sized engine, will fit into this car. It's the same straight six layout. It is a lot longer, but that's okay as well. We've done this in a Cresta, which is a much smaller engine bay version of this car, and it fitted in there, no problems at all. You'd probably be familiar with the Cresta. So we're fairly confident there. We are going to use the reverse type of sump. We've got an FG sump, and we'll probably have to cut a passage through the middle of the back of the sump for the steering to pass through. So we're prepared for that already. And apart from that, we're just gonna have to get in here, get all this elderly stuff out of here, clear the wiring, get rid of anything that's involved with the engine, like this box that no one knows what it is, and these things with hoses, and we'll start from scratch. Let's get stuck into it. Why don't you make it so hot? You weld that.
No.
You did so.
I didn't touch
Look
it.
at it. It's got you written all over it, bro.
thanks, brother.
Like you were walking off with it. Toyota does overdo a lot of stuff with 11T1000 brackets all over everything that makes it hard to work on them, but they also do some pretty cool stuff that makes it a lot easier to work on. These are the converter bolts, and these come in various sizes depending on how much power output they've got, but usually they will have a single bolt that's a different colour, and that one has a little step on it, and what that's there for is so you can put that one in first, you can tighten it up, and it will centralise all the other bolt holes, so you can then, all the other ones are centred. It's probably not for us, it's probably for assembly purposes, but it's pretty handy.
Where is it? Oh, whoa.
Up there.
You can hear the honks if you put your ear up to it.
No, that's just a goose, bro. Actually, the honk is the noise from the driver's seat. It's you, because you're a goose. It does not make any noises. Honk. I've been tuned.
Yeah.
Got a tuner's sticker on it.
Must be tuned by Whitey's wiring with that felt tape.
Oh, yeah. That's what they must use it for.
Identification.
Inbuilt. It's almost like they knew it had to come out all the time. That's unfair. It's been in there for 180,000. It runs perfectly. But
Do you know that this vehicle is the least amount of kilometre vehicles I've ever owned?
it's not much of a brag, bro.
And that back stuff back there. Got the old 1G and A340 out of the crown, ready to throw on marketplace. These were such a common engine to convert back in the day in Corollas, Celicas, Supras. What else do people put them in now? Everything.
Whatever they fitted in, yeah.
It's kind of the pre-1JZ, I suppose, that you'd use for an engine conversion. And they are a great engine, 2 litre, they can handle boost relatively well. And that was a plan for this car too, was, hey, let's actually twin charge this engine. But looking at this is probably a perfect example of why I didn't want to mess with it, because there's so much old crusty stuff around the engine that I didn't want to go, all right, let's pump some boost into it and then find out that I've blown the head gasket, so now I need to put head studs in it, and then just that whole ball is going to start rolling. Hence why we're putting the Barra into it, because it just makes sense and I've got everything there. So great engines, and they were very common. Another thing that was common for conversions was the supercharger. These were retrofitted onto so many different engines, and still to this day you see them fitted to so many different cars to get that 6, 8, 9, 10 pounder boost into your whatever engine. I've seen them fitted to so many different engines.
I think they made about £3 on a 3.8
Ecotech,
Commodore engine.
Of course, yeah.
It was like not even worth the purchase price.
Can you can you put 2 of them on and then make £6? Doesn't work that way though, does it? No. Double the capacity?
Yeah, you can put 2 of them on and use twice the amount of power to turn them.
You know what fixes that? A Barra and G40.
That is correct.
This is going on Marketplace. It may be worth something to someone. It may still be available. So if you are a Crown fanatic or a Cresta fanatic or something like that and you want it, I'm going to hang on to it for a little while. Not too sure when this episode's coming out, but if you want it, message us. Let us know if you need it.
Just been running the tape over both the 1G and the Barra, just getting a bit of a comparison in size and height and where everything's laid out. The Barra is obviously much bigger than the 1G. It's a fairly small 6-cylinder, and the Barra is a very large 6-cylinder. But there was a lot of room in this engine bay around the 1G. And older engines tend to have a lot more accessories stacked forward of them. They don't have serpentine belts and that sort of thing. So you can gain a bit of space in that way with a modern engine that has modern ways of building them. So probably our biggest hurdle is the track rod on steering. So we know that. So what we're going to do is knock it off and let it drop down and get it out of the way. It's going to have to go into where the sump is. But the only way to find out where to cut the sump is to put the engine in and then just lift it up and go, yep, draw a line, start chopping. So that's all good. Everything else looks reasonable. This is distantly related to my Crown's engine bay, or chassis, I guess you would call it, but it's a lot bigger. They continually expanded them width-wise in every direction, and I don't think we're going to have anywhere near the problems that we had with the Crown, with the big block. It would probably fit in here very nicely, but Woody can't have it because he doesn't want anything poking out the bonnet. Sway bar might be an issue, but we'll get to that when we get to it. We'll start by dropping the engine in and see how we go. I think Ross do dry sumps for these, you should be right.
Dry sump now, you say?
No need a heater or a firewall.
How about we just put a JZ in
This
there?
is just pretty standard.
Keep going, it's about to come. We're no strangers to engine swaps, but they always have their challenges. There is a process you have to go through, and that can be tedious. Engine in and out multiple times, make clearances to suit, etc. We've done that. It's taken a day or so to do it. The main aspects of fitting the engine in the car is making sure that everything is clearance-wise. So you do have to test fit your inlet manifold, your exhaust manifold, etc. We've had to make some modifications to the cross member to clear the front of the engine. This has got a specific weird little lump in the front of the engine that's a Barra thing.
We have also modified the actual bell housing by taking a bunch of material off the bolt holes. They have a big stand on them that was about 35 mil. That was causing the bolts to hit the firewall, and we wanted to get it back as far as possible. We've milled them down to suit. We've clearanced the actual tunnel around the entry of the bell housing because it's a lot bigger than the engine that was in it. We knew we had to do that. No big deal. They're pretty malleable. Just a bit of careful measuring and beating with a hammer. The gearbox fits pretty well in the tunnel itself. It's just that entry point. We are now sort of ready to mount the engine. The main things you need to think about when you're mounting the engine is centering it. It doesn't always have to be in the center. A lot of engines aren't, but in this case, that's the case. So one of the weird things about Barras is the cylinder head isn't in the middle of the engine. They've kind of added an inlet cam and it's offset a bit. So that can be a bit of a trap if you're trying to chase the center line of the engine. Do it at the crankshaft because that's the middle. And this is sort of over this side a bit more. Leveling the engine, you can see we've got the level on there. You just got to find a spot. Again, the Barra's a weird shape. We call it the porpoise. It's got a stupid valve cover that's really high at the front, which is also not very handy. That causes you to have to test fit the bonnet because we didn't want to cut the bonnet up because it's all been freshly painted. So once we got it all sitting in there and we thought we were in the right spot, we have thrown the bonnet back on, checked clearance. It's all good. It's got heaps. So that's back off again. Now we're everything's chocked up. The gearbox is strapped up. It's ready to go. We will start building the engine mounts. We are using a Tough Mounts universal kit for this. So TM901 Barra conversion universal. So it comes with these pre-made mounts as per Tough Mount style. And then you basically build the rest out of these bits, trim them down. In this case, this has a sort of a fairly unique mounting system, and we're going to retain that so we don't have to weld onto the cross member itself. They used to be the engine mounts. We have removed the vulcanized rubber off that to be left with these plates. So they're going to get bolted back down into their original position, and then we're going to build up to this. So it should be a fairly straightforward job. In the rear, we've just got a new transmission mount for the Turbo 400, and we'll just put the factory cross member in there and work out some way. We haven't even lifted it up, so we don't know exactly what we're going to do, but it's just general engineering. I usually start with the transmission mount and then move forward to the engine mounts, and that gives you a sort of center point for the drive line, then move up to the front, check everything out. As you're going, you can see that's not quite level, but as we go through it, we will start at one side and then level it out when we do the second mount. And then everything should be good to go. We've checked radiator clearance. Even though it's got a big fat radiator in it, it still fits, so it's looking pretty good. Can be challenging, but you got to work through it.
Rojo Medojo. What do you think of the Barra conversion, mate?
He's not convinced. Crowns are kind of unique. They have a centralised sump with a cross member at the front and the steering at the rear. This is not that common. Chryslers in the 60s had that sort of setup as well, but it's relatively uncommon. It does make it interesting when you're trying to put different engines in the cars. We went through a very similar problem with my Crown. It's the same sort of layout as this. So in this case, we've got the choice of two sumps with a Barra. We've got a front sump on the BA to BF, and the later FG engine, which this one is a rear sump. The rear, it goes basically halfway up the engine, so it's quite a large capacity sump. And in this case, what we're going to do is cut the sump and put a small C channel through the middle of it for this to operate within. That's also not an uncommon thing to do. You can buy sumps for small block Chevs and that sort of thing that have had that done to them to fit into certain chassis, where this is a thing as well, such as Novas from the 60s. So we pulled the sump off. We did try and mark it when the sump was on there, but you couldn't really get this steering back up into the position to accurately do it. So we've pulled the sump off. We're making some marks on the engine itself where the steering path goes. As it goes through an arc, it starts forward and then pulls backwards as the steering turns like this. We've marked the position of the steering on the windage tray here, and we'll pull the engine back out, and then we'll transfer those markings over onto the actual sump itself. Cut a slice through it. We've got some 75mm alley box that will turn into a C channel, and then we'll clean it all up and weld it in there.
Oh, Roger! The joys of filming with a dog in the workshop, hey? Ah! Welding your Barra sump can be difficult due to warpage, so I've come and seen my mate Klopfy from ARCDROID. You've got a couple of Barras laying around. So because we've cut out quite a large section of the sump, we've had it bolted down to a block. That's to keep it flat and secure. And we've given it a preheat, and Cloppy's going to fire up the TIG and blast away.
Hopefully not.
Do you have any warranty on this, mate, or what's the go? What if it warps or leaks?
Garage warranty only.
There's the sump all welded up, just letting it cool down while it's still bolted to the block. These dash 12 ports are for a transfer tube too, just so there's no dead oil sitting in the back. So that's all done. Shout out to Clopfy at ARCDROID. I'm going to link his Instagram in the description if you're after a quick welding job, or possibly if you want to turbo LS swap your Mitsubishi Pajero. Give him a call. Thanks, Cloppy. Appreciate it, man.
No worries, mate. Anytime.
Cheers, dude.
Everybody loves a new workshop tool, and we're no different. This is an ARCDROID. It's a Canadian product that is basically a CNC plasma cutter attachment. So you get your plasma cutter and you can put the torch into the lever arm here, and it will cut out shapes that you program into it. That's the catch. You've got to program it in there, and we're slowly bumbling our way through that. You can program it via this handpiece here. You can trace existing shapes. You can make a template and then trace that out. It's actually running through a test run now for something we are going to cut out. It's pretty cool. We had Anthony from Hare and Forbes Machinery House, who supplied the machine, come up from Sydney, run us through it. We concentrated as best we could, but now we're actually just working it out ourselves because it is quite complex and it's got a lot of features and you just have to work your way through them. So I've cut out a few things that didn't fit, but that's not the machine's fault. It is just a machine. We've got a Unitig Plasma Cut 45 down there. That is a new unit as well. It plugs straight into this machine and the machine controls it. While Anthony was here, he showed us how to use this machine, but he also took us through the milling machine, the right tooling. We got a couple of new tools for it as well that we didn't have. Showed us the right way of doing things, which is definitely not the way we were doing it, but we try. Also, lathe, same thing. Anthony's a fitter machinist by trade and now works as a sort of product developer at Machinery House. So he knows what's going on, and we also supplied a bunch of new tools for the lathe itself. So we learned heaps, and we want to give Anthony a big thank you for coming up and showing us what's up. Also a fan of the show, which we appreciate. Thanks, mate. Let's cut some stuff. I'll have to turn the machine on.
Oh, yeah.
You do it. You do it.
Make sure you press the right button this time.
This is what I mean when I said we were bumbling our way through it. Here's some pre-cut future rust repair sections for vehicles in the future. And here's the one that will fit.
if you're ever wondering what's involved when it comes to engine swapping your Toyota Crown, now you may have a bit more of an idea. The Crown is pretty unique when it comes to the chassis and steering layout. So there's a couple of engines that you can use from Toyota, like M Series or a JZ with a mid-sump will work. These cars actually come out as a JZ 130 with a 1JZ NA. So going down that path would have been acceptable, but the fact of the matter is we've had the Barra laying around for the last, what's it been, like 5 years, Al, I think maybe. So that's why we're using it, because we've got that. So the engine's ready to go back in. We've got the sump modified. The crossmember has had that rust repair done. So everything's working and ready to go back in the car. We've got a bunch of goodies to bolt onto the engine. I have got heaps of stuff from Golby's, timing chain gears, head studs, oil pump gears, everything to make the FG turbo engine capable of making that 600, 700 horsepower figure. We're not really too sure. Once we get there, I don't want to say
750.
750, you reckon? I mean, at about 750. So all that's going on. The Turbo 400 was built many years ago, ready for the engine, but our gearbox builder has suggested that maybe we pull it down to have a squeeze and maybe modernise it with some newer parts. It's been sitting, so there could be some corrosion inside there. We don't know. The other thing is there's so much work to get done in the engine bay too when it comes to painting and cleaning things up. So there's way more episodes coming your way, so stay tuned. In the meantime, we've got some new hoodies going. These are our Skid Factory blue hoodies. We've got Harrop hoodies. There's so much more merch on the merch store. So if you like what you see and you want to support the show, jump onto our merch store and hit the link, hit the buy now button, express post, shipped right from here to your door, anywhere in the world. Actually, where don't we ship to? Where is it not going to? Isn't there like...
Maybe the Ukraine.
Yeah, something like that. Sorry, guys. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned for some Barra-powered Crown Wagon or some possibly other content next week, because we don't know what we're going to release at times like this. See you next time. Cheers.
What is up, Alan?
Yo, Benny.
Hey, man.
Hey, I got a question for you, or maybe a couple.
Oh, yeah?
You know, I know that you're a Crown enthusiast.
Don't tar me with that brush.
Also a Barra enthusiast.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. So, would you prefer a Crown with a Barra in it, or a Crown with a big block Chev in it?
Big block all day.
Big block.
Probably more chance it'll fit.
Big block all day. Yeah, that's debatable. I think, given my recent experiences.
What if we swap out? What if we put the big block in my car and you...
I thought about that at some point.
Big block in Woody's car.
Yeah, and Barra in the Crown. It's all about the content, bro.
What's the localised rust situation?
There was some localised rust. They seem to rust in that...
Man, every time in Crowns, they always get that rust
in that
spot
same
right
spot.
K-frame.
Yeah, it must be like a water catch there or something.
It's just a bad design on Toyota's
Something's
part, I think.
going on. Something's going on. But I've got a system to fix it, so it's all good.
Yeah, as long as you got something in place, that's fine.
All right. Second question is, if you were to travel into the United States, as I know that you're a fan of, would you prefer cookout or a fried egg to eat?
Oh. I still think I'd take the cookout bullet.
Cookout over a fried egg?
Eggs are dirt.
What about...
And Martin will back me up 100% on that.
What about
You can take that to the bank.
fried egg from cookout?
Oh, no. To be fair, I don't think there'd be any fried egg in a fried egg from cookout, so I think I'd be fine to eat that one.
Yeah, it could be anything.
Yeah. It's actually like granulated rubber or something.
All right, that concludes
The cookout.
concludes our interview, Benjamin.
I appreciate the inclusion upon this interview.
Thanks for your time.
Anytime.
See you, mate.
Bye.
It's really well.
What is it?
Lasagna. Yeah. Are you They assume like, oh, it's got to turn on. Never mind. So, stick it on. Oh, put a different one on it. Big.
That's the Chinese one he put on. Years ago.
Oh, we're still filming. All that time. 14 minutes later. How's that lasagna grumming?
I'm a filmer.
5% battery. Whoopsie.
If you like crowns but you think Barras sound a bit odd, then you might want to check out the big block powered crown here. Or if you like 1JZs and they sound better than Barras in your opinion, check it out there. Or if you want to buy this big block crown hoodie, you can check it out here. Click.
It's a QR code. Remember to scan it.
Scan.
And if you don't click the video now on your TV, YouTube's going to show you something else.
How are you supposed to scan it if you're watching it on your phone?
Then www.themerchfactory.skidfactory.
Makes sense.